Got them looking left overhead, slightly out of sight. What's the bottom line to anything when anyone's surprised?
Stars for Douglas County, a nonprofit grassroots organization dedicated to the support of visual arts in public education for our Douglas County youth, and thus expanding the visual arts in our community. Stars for DC does not have any fancy office space, executive meeting rooms, or paid employees. We are comprised of all volunteers, so all the proceeds raised goes back to our kids and their art programs.
It was one of those things that was very natural to me. I always had a sketchbook. My parents always provided me with reams of paper. Remember the old computerized ones with all the holes on the outside? I had stacks of those and just went through them like candy, basically.
When I was in elementary school, my dad took a class at an adult ed, like recreational program at a local community college in black and white film photography. And he was so excited about it that he tore out a storage closet in our garage and painted it and knocked a hole in the wall and stuck a hose through the hole to get running water and converted it to a dark room. And I was fascinated with what he was doing. And I shot my first roll of film and processed my own film and made my first darkroom print in 2nd grade. And I've been hooked ever since.
I always wanted to be an artist because it was the way I spoke. It's the way that it's easy for me to make a three-dimensional object. It's easy for me to paint it or to draw it and to communicate with the public as a whole that way. When you get me into a situation where I have to write it down and go through a series of processes, I'm not as good that way. So it's the way I speak. And it took me a number of years to realize that that was my talent. It was my gift.
An art teacher that stands out in my mind was in high school. I had a teacher named Mrs. Steele, and she provided us with materials and kind of alternative ideas. No project seemed too big for her, and she was just willing to bite off, whatever the student had in mind, and that was really good.
Past the road and shore, I've nothing left to hear. Chasing all the world.
The stars were designed and painted by Colorado artists. They were displayed throughout Douglas County in the beginning of September through the end of October. This year, the stars were located at Crowfoot Coffee in Castle Rock, the Grange in Castle Rock Adventist Hospital, the Wildlife Experience in Parker, Lone Tree Library, Park Meadows Mall in Centennial, and Tattered Covered Bookstore in Highlands Ranch. The smaller stars could be seen at Roxborough Gallery at the Marketplace, along at Cherry Creek Ranch Castle in Sedalia, and the Pace Center in Parker.
I do like sculpting and stuff, but I also like painting on canvases and stuff.
What did you sculpt?
We sculpted animals, and I did a giraffe.
Is it in a box, a shoebox?
Yes,
Oh,
we
so-
made a habitat for it too. Well, I already kind of had a background like I knew, but then I did a little research about pictures and I got more ideas on it.
And then you just made the habitat. Mm-hmm. What did you do to make a habitat? What kind of things went into it?
Well, we took paint, a shoebox, and other just stuff that you would throw away, like recycled items, and painted them and turned them all into habitats.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have art in public schools just to round out the students. It's not like art was something that the schools thought of. Art has been around forever. People have done it since the dawn of time, and it's something that needs to be, I think, nurtured along in a child, and it helps them to develop other skills if they don't particularly pursue art as a livelihood. It opens their eyes to a lot of creative ways of solving problems and making solutions for today.
Yeah, well, art, it really instills a sense of out-of-box thinking in me. It really helps with the difficult classes, like math. I really have a hard time memorizing things, but once I find a pattern in it, I can figure it out, and patterns you find everywhere in art. It's definitely not a memorization process. It really helps you become an out-of-box thinker, and you can figure out problems a lot easier because there's not only one way to do anything in art or in any of the subjects we study.
In this academic and economic environment that we're in right now, with choices being made for every penny that's being spent, there's always a lot of questions about funding for the arts. And academic programs, there's such a push for standardized testing and all of that, that academic programs always seem to come first. But I know that all we hear about in the news is that as a nation and as a generation of students coming up right now, they need to be pushing creativity and innovation, and that's how we're going to grow our economy and keep it.
It's my installation project. It's a tree made out of wire and paper, and my idea was that I really wanted it to be very calming, which is why it's all blue and purple. And because art is my stress reliever, and it's what I find calming, and when I get upset, that's what I do. I draw and I paint, and it helps me relax. And so I wanted other people to feel the same way, which is why I used paper and paper clips, which are a lot of things you use in art.
That looks great.
Thank you.
So what, I mean, if you didn't have art, what do you think your day would be like?
I think it'd just be a lot more stressful. I mean, it's kind of stressful to begin with school and having to balance everything, but it's really nice to have art at the end of the day, every other day, and you can just kind of go into your own little world, and you don't have to worry about your grades, and you don't have to worry about getting into college when you're just painting.
Would you say art is your favorite subject?
Art and math, probably, are my two favorite subjects.
How would you say art helps you with math?
I think a lot of math is problem solving, and in order to be a good problem solver, you have to think in different ways, and you have to be really creative, and sometimes you have to look at things from a different angle. And I think art is really good at teaching you how to problem solve and be creative and think outside the box more than anything.
Why is art important? In a recent article published by USA Today, quote, researchers determined that students who received more arts education did better on standardized tests, improved their social skills, and were more motivated than those who had reduced or no access to the art programs. Contrary to popular belief, the business community looks for creative, divergent thinkers to engage and motivate its employees. Art courses develop and encourage creativity.
In art, your imagination bursts wild on whatever you want to draw and what you don't want to draw. You can draw anything you want. There's no rules to that.
I can almost guarantee if I didn't have art class, I probably wouldn't have very many friends. But taking like a media class, I met friends I didn't even know about. And taking art, I've met so many people and got to know so many people that I don't think I'd be very sociable and probably a little angry if I didn't have the art class.
Art was the only thing that made me through school because I was highly dyslexic, and in reality I really didn't learn how to read and write until I was 25 years old. And if I didn't have multiple art classes throughout the day, whether it was woodworking or clay or making fabric, I wouldn't have made it through high school, or there's no way.
The 2012 Masquerade at Cielo in Castle Pines was such a success that in 2013 we were supporting all the Douglas County art programs and students. This means that teacher grants and student scholarships will be available for all DCSD schools after tonight's event. In early spring, we awarded $6,000 worth of scholarships and grants to students and teachers in the art programs. The funds, which were divided evenly, were a result of the organization's first annual benefit gala held on November 2012. In total, 3 high school seniors, 3 art teachers, and 2 schools received funding. This will allow students to pursue college educations and teachers to purchase additional classroom supplies for their art programs. Tonight we're raising funds for the visual art grants in Douglas County, student scholarships for arts, and the 2 Star Select schools, which include Coyote Creek Elementary and Douglas County High School. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take action now. The arts in our community need you.
Touch the creativity aspect of a person unless they're using that imagination. And you only learn that through arts.
When I was young, I didn't know if I was better off asleep or up. Now I've grown up, I wonder what was that world I was dreaming of. When I was young, I didn't know if I was better off asleep or up. Now I've grown up, I wonder what was that world I was dreaming of. What was that world I was dreaming of? What was that world